Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe, a regular episode this week. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Jitesh Ramakrishnan. Big week in sports. March Madness is one weekend in, probably the biggest weekend of the upsets in the books. We'll also talk about NBA, NHL, MLB, probably towards the end, some NFL rule changes, with the kickoff, banning of the hip drop tackle. I found those are going to be interesting, so we definitely need to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, March Madness, I want to talk about the first 4 days of action and preview the next weekend. Yeah, I mean, some upsets. It was kind of chalky later on, but I mean, the first few days, I mean, Kentucky choked. They lost to Oakland. Jack Golke really popped off, hitting a bunch of 3-pointers. I thought that was really cool. It's cool to see how these stars come out of this tournament. No one ever heard of Jack Golke. If you don't know, he pretty much only shoots threes. And he's pretty good at that. That's his game. But he was one of the leading scorers in Oakland. They became really popular. Obviously, beat Kentucky, one of the big upsets. Other mid-major programs who had success, like Grand Canyon beating St. Mary's, losing to Alabama.
Auburn getting shocked.
Yeah, Auburn losing to Yale. That was a big one as well. A few other 12 over 5s. Nothing crazy happened, except for I think Oakland over Kentucky was pretty big. Yale over Auburn was pretty big. NC State keeps winning. They won 5 games in 5 days. 5 games in 5 days to win the ACC. Win two
Duke
more in March
surprisingly
Madness.
has
They're going to the Sweet 16.
Duke surprisingly hasn't choked yet.
Yeah, Duke so far so good. Yeah, like I said, I used to like them when I was younger, so they're still alive here. Took down Vermont, who played a pretty good game. Another team that I kind of like seeing in the tournament every year. They also took down James Madison. That was another upset with James Madison over Wisconsin, pretty dominant. Grand Canyon over St. Mary's, dominant. But Duke really took it to JMU, a very good mid-major team that won 31-3, beat two Big Ten teams who made the tournament. Duke just rolled past them, really showed their talent. So it'll be interesting. It's not Duke kind of is the 4th seed. They're going to be probably the underdog against Houston, but I have a feeling they might still be able to win the way Houston struggled against A&M. But we'll preview all 8. I'll preview all 8 games coming up. But I mean, in terms of the first round, some upsets, a lot of chalk, but some fun upsets. That's what March Madness is all about. And then of course Dayton with the huge comeback win in the first round. I think they were down by quite a bit against Nevada. They were able to come all the way back and win. Yeah, I mean, Texas A&M beat Nebraska. Nebraska's first game in the tournament in a while. Utah State beat TCU. There's a lot of games to go through. Clemson held on against. Well, they dominated New Mexico. Everyone thought that would be an 11-6 upset where New Mexico was actually favored. Mountain West did not do all that great, but San Diego State's moving on. Colgate lost. FAU lost early. Northwestern moved on before losing to UConn. Samford got robbed. They should have been able to have a chance to beat Kansas. It was a clean block that they got there, and it was ruled a foul, so Kansas had free throws when they really shouldn't have. But Kansas then lost to Gonzaga in the second round. Go Zags. So good stuff there. Purdue didn't choke like usual. They actually made it out of the second round with some dominant wins. They might actually have overcome their March demons because they're known for losing in the first round or losing early to much weaker opponents. But this year they didn't. So second round, very chalky, not many upsets at all. NC State, Oakland, a battle of the Cinderellas, I guess you could call it. NC State knocked off the Oakland Golden Grizzlies 79-73 to prove that they're the real Cinderella. They're taking advantage of their run to
Personally,
the, you know what I
I
mean?
wouldn't use the term Cinderella story. I mean, for me, sure, first round upset is nice, and even the second round upset, that's really
Mm-hmm.
cool. But I think you can really call it a Cinderella story as soon as they make it to like the Elite Eight.
That's true. Like
That,
St. Peter's.
yeah, that's my view.
I see,
Or
yeah. One
or what
upset
was this?
probably doesn't.
Yeah,
Wait,
or
what?
what was the school from last year or 2 years ago? Oral Roberts.
Oh yeah, Oral Roberts. They made the Sweet 16, I believe, too, a few years
Yeah,
ago.
I mean,
So
you can maybe call that the Cinderella story, but
yeah,
sure,
I guess one.
just one upset, like one first round upset. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great story and it's fun to laugh at these
Yeah, at the big
schools
school
that
still
have
is.
expectations, but I would again like a Cinderella story is when you go on an unexpected run, not have an unexpected win. Like for example, the the Carolina Panthers when they went to the Super Bowl in 2004. That was That was a Cinderella story. No one expected the Rams to lose that, and likewise, no one expected the Eagles to lose after that. And they held their own in that Super Bowl too, until Tom Brady came along. But anyways, point digressing. Uh, I mean, you can call these a series of upsets, yes, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
exactly call it a Cinderella story. That's just my view.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I think Golke actually did say after the Oakland win that they're not a Cinderella. Like they were that good, and they proved.
Yeah,
I
he
guess they
did
did
say that.
prove it against Kentucky, but and NC. I guess it was a battle of two teams who weren't expected to be there. NC State's still a major program, but not one of the best teams in the ACC, and they had to win from the. I think they were the 10th seed in the ACC. They had to win 5 games in 5 days just to even get there. So they were unexpected to be there. Oakland, obviously, from a mid-major conference who only gets one team into the tournament, not expected to win a game at all. So I mean, but yeah, I mean NC State, definitely that was probably one of the better games of the second round. Moving on now, the lowest seed in the Sweet 16, which I already mentioned was very chalky. Just a very chalky second round. Like not a lot of upsets at all in the second round. Pretty much everyone that was expected to win won. There were some close games, but like Gonzaga kind of blew out Kansas. Arizona won.
Texas,
UNC beat.
Tennessee.
Yeah, Texas Tennessee was a good one. Texas almost came back. Tennessee won. Iowa State won. UNC won over Michigan State in kind of a battle of the blue bloods. Michigan State's pretty good in March unless they play a bigger blue blood like UNC, I guess. But UNC is also the one seed. Michigan State, the 9 seed. So kind of checks out what happened there. Illinois, a team that from the Big Ten who I'm high on. They've been playing really well. They knocked off Duquesne. Terrence Shannon's been playing well. Marcus Damascus been playing well. They move on. No problem. That was another upset. Duquesne over I forget who they beat in the first round, but that was yeah Duquesne. That was the first upset in the
It was
tournament.
BYU.
So at BYU, that's right. Yeah. So that was the first big upset of the tournament. I guess probably set up Illinois nicely. Creighton, Oregon was a good game. It went to double overtime before the Blue Jays finally pulled away. I really liked what I saw out of Oregon, the two-man game between Jermaine Cousinard and Nafali Dante. Cousinard 32, Dante with 28, and only two other players on Oregon even scored. Jackson Shelstad at 7, Jadrian Tracy with 6, but really Cousinard, Dante had an amazing duo. In the second half, they were pretty much the only two players who scored, and they almost were able to upset Creighton. And Oregon, another team who won their conference, wasn't expected to really, do too much. All season they won their conference. They beat South Carolina, lose to Creighton. So the Jays are moving on, but that was a good game. Yeah, and then I guess into Sunday's action, Marquette held on against Colorado. Colorado beat Florida 102-100. That was a very exciting game at the time, the same time as the finish of Auburn-Yale. So I thought that was very interesting how that happened. Purdue, no problems this year, rolled over Utah State. So they look good. Duke, as I already mentioned, blew out James Madison. Um, kind of like a little bit of talent mismatch. I thought JMU would have a good chance, but Duke proved to be a different beast. Just like kind of against Vermont, same thing, but even more so against JMU. Like, the mid-major programs dominated their leagues, but Duke was a different level, and that's probably a good thing as they get ready to play tougher teams. Clemson upset over Baylor, so they're a 6 seed moving on. That was actually, I guess, a decent-sized upset. Clemson, the ACC, has 4 teams in the Sweet 16, and then Alabama knocking off Grand Canyon, who had a great year, beat St. Mary's, as already mentioned a couple of times. Exciting fans, exciting game. Tyon Grant Foster with 29 points, not enough for the Antelopes out of the Western Athletic Conference. And then number 1 seed UConn, defending champs and probably favored to win it all again. Had no problem the first 2 rounds getting over Stetson, and then knocking off Boo and another Big Ten team in Northwestern. Houston, a thriller against A&M, which went to overtime. A&M hit a last-second shot. Anderson Garcia hit a shot to get that game into overtime and really gave Houston another number 1 seed a big scare, but it was the Houston Cougars moving on. They'll play Duke in the Sweet 16. And finally, to set up a national championship rematch, San Diego State knocked off Yale in blowout fashion. That game got boring kind of quickly. I thought Yale would put up a good fight after knocking off Auburn, but SDSU, they have that championship level pedigree. They went all the way to the championship before losing to UConn last year. Still a very good team. Jane Ledee with 26, Jerry Trammell 18 points. San Diego State, one of the last few teams left standing in the Crowded Mountain West, and that sets up our national championship rematch game against UConn. Obviously, the Huskies will still be favored. They have, guys like Karaban and Cam Spencer, former Rutgers player, Donovan Klingon, Tristan Newton and Stephon Castle, probably the best starting five in college basketball. So they're going to be favored for a reason. But it'll be interesting to see that national championship game rematch in the Sweet 16. That's on Thursday. The other matchups in the Sweet 16, Clemson, Arizona. Arizona also rolled through the first two rounds. Didn't really have too much of a problem getting past Dayton in the second round, and a blowout win against Long Beach State, although Long Beach State kind of held in close. Funny story with Long Beach State, their coach actually got fired, but he was allowed to coach till the end of the season. They went on an unexpected run, won their conference tournament, and went into the NCAA tournament to take on Arizona, but Arizona's too much for them. Last year, Arizona actually lost to Princeton, so they were also one of those teams who got beat by a much lower seed. This year, so far, no problems. They're in the Sweet 16. So Clemson, Arizona is the first game of Sweet 16 action, followed by San Diego State, UConn. I guess Kapil's favorite team, Alabama, taking on UNC. That should be a really good game, actually. UNC, another one seed, Alabama, the 4th seed. Both teams playing well. The one I'm most excited about, I think will be a really good matchup, Illinois, Iowa State. Illinois with the top offense in all of college basketball, Iowa State with the top defense. Illinois is playing really well, as I mentioned, with Shannon Domask, but Iowa State, one of the toughest teams. They blew out Houston in the Big 12 championship, and they're rolling. So that should be a really good game as well. And then I guess shifting over to Friday's games, NC State, the team that I like to consider the Cinderella. We'll see how far that run goes. They're going to be up against Marquette, who escaped. Marquette beat Western Kentucky in the first round and hung on against Colorado. They were actually trailing Western Kentucky, had no problem, knocked off Colorado. I didn't really see too much of how that went. It seemed like a close game. Marquette is the 2 seed, NC State 11 seed, the lowest seed left in the Sweet 16. Gonzaga, Purdue, a matchup of big programs. Purdue with championship aspirations this year. They survived the early March scare. Gonzaga team, who's made the Sweet 16, I believe this is their 90th Sweet 16 in a row. Can they go further and win the whole thing? I'd like them to. I'll be rooting for Gonzaga. I guess everyone wants Purdue to lose. Duke, Houston, that should be a good one. I feel like Duke might have the upper hand for some reason, but just because they played really well against James Madison, who I thought was a good team. And Houston struggled with A&M, who maybe was also, I guess, a pretty good team, but not to the level of some of these top programs. So we'll see how Duke goes, how that game goes. Now Duke will probably shift to being the underdog after being the heavy favorite probably twice in a row. And finally, last game of the Sweet 16, Creighton, Tennessee, and a matchup between 3-seeded Blue Jays, who already discussed their win over Oregon. Tennessee, absolutely rolling with Dalton Connect. They knocked off Texas after beating St. Peter's, a Cinderella from a few years ago who made it to the Elite 8. This year, not so lucky, getting blown out by the Vols. But Creighton, Tennessee, I think the story to take away from the Sweet 16 is the first couple of rounds of the tournament, not too many upsets. There were a few in the first round, not too many in the second round. However, what that does for us is it sets up all these matchups between big-time basketball programs, blue bloods. You get a lot of 1 versus 4, 1 versus 5, 1 versus 5, 3 versus 2, 3 versus 2, 4 versus 1, 6 versus 2. I'm talking about C lines here, but that just means, these are top programs going against top programs. And as fun as the March Madness upsets are, we all love them. By the time you get to the Sweet 16, it's time to play, against the top programs in the country. And I think we're going to get to see a lot of the top programs going against each other. Obviously the national championship rematch excites me just because it's that. Illinois, Iowa State excites me. Gonzaga, Purdue should be a really good one. Duke, Houston, Creighton, Tennessee, like all these games, even Alabama, UNC, I think all of them are going to be very exciting matchups. High level matchups, we got some blue blood, some, it's just, big time programs going against big time programs. And that's what I like to see. If you're a college basketball fan, you enjoy the March Madness upsets, but once it gets to this time of the year, you want to see these kinds of matchups in the Sweet 16. So yes, there weren't as many upsets as we would have liked in the second round, but I think that's going to set up a fantastic weekend of basketball coming up. Do you agree with that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not someone, like I said, I'm not someone who tunes into college sports often, but like, some, I mean, when I'm in the mood for like, really for anything, like, or when it comes to like, forecasting an upset that I could possibly see, I might tune in. I mean, of course, as I said before in one of the previous episodes, I forget which one it was, but as sports fans, we live to be surprised.
Yeah,
It'd be nice if, like, if I'm 100 years old and my team won the Super Bowl for 100 straight years. That'd be really nice, but unfortunately, that will never happen. But I can dream. But we look for surprises. I mean, come on, no one thought the Bengals would make it to the Super Bowl, especially after Joe Burrow tore his ACL in his rookie season. And that's like, it's funny because during that draft, I was the one screaming at the Bengals like, why the hell did you pick Jamar Chase? Why did you? Penei Sewell was right there to block Joe Burrow. And lo and behold, they make it to the Super Bowl, and I look like a dunderhead. But still. So yeah, uh, yeah. I mean, even though like college sports aren't really my thing, I still tune in every once in a while, and upsets are fun, except when it's against your team. I would not.
exactly. Upsets are fun unless they're against your team.
I would
That is
not.
so true.
I've been on the bad end of so many of them. I
Oh
can
yeah,
almost list
oh
all of them
yeah.
by name.
With especially this past year with the Celtics and the Bruins. Yeah,
No, the Bruins one hurt a lot more.
yeah, because that was the first round, and that could have been the like with one of the best teams in all of regular
Yeah.
season history, I think. So
Well,
it would
we
have been
were the
nice if
best.
they were the
Back,
best team in NHL regular season
six,
history.
yeah, 65 wins, 135 points.
I know. I don't. Yeah, I mean it's incredible.
And
Yeah, Penn, yeah.
as we speak right now, we're down 2-1 to the Florida Panthers by the
I
end
was
of the first
yeah,
period. So
I was just checking that myself actually. That's really funny that we mentioned.
yeah,
I guess the good news about the Panthers being that good this year is that the Bruins are not going to play them in the first round. So,
no, I mean,
you know what I mean?
it could technically happen because the Panthers
Oh,
and the
yeah, that's
Bruins and
true.
the Panthers,
Yeah. Hmm.
like the Bruins and the Panthers are neck and neck when it comes to like seeding for the first in the Atlantic. And let's not forget, both of these two teams out of seven right now are within 1 or 2 points of each other of being the President's Trophies recipients. Like this might possibly be the deepest, or I don't know if I could say deepest, but the most competitive President's Trophy race we've seen in years, the most competitive Hart Trophy race we've seen in years, and the most competitive Art Ross Trophy we've seen in years. Well, actually, not maybe not Art Ross, but Hart and President's Trophy for sure. Like this might be the most competitive we've seen. Normally, like we can eventually gauge a true breakaway of who's going to win the President's Trophy within like sometimes even by like before the All Star break. But you see here, like so many teams right now are within the race. Like think of it, a quarter of the league, well, a little less than a quarter, 7 teams right now are within a couple points of each other of being the President's Trophy recipients, which is crazy. So it's another reason why I've been saying like hockey is not appreciated enough by everyone. And this is just the regular season. You think this is good? Wait till April comes. April, you will be very entertained.
Oh yeah, I cannot wait for Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, and
But one of the best times of the year.
yeah, and going back to the Panthers, like I mean, of course it was an upset. I'm not saying it wasn't, but the Panthers the previous year they won the President's Trophy and they got swept by the Lightning in the second round. So when
Right, right.
the Panthers were catching fire at the eighth seed at the wrong time for us, and so
Hmm.
when the Bruins were bracketed against the Panthers in the first round, I didn't think it'd be easy because this team was the President's Trophy recipient the previous year in 2022, and they're red hot going in to clinch the finale. And if the goddamn Chicago Blackhawks, no, if the goddamn Pittsburgh Penguins were able to beat the goddamn Chicago Blackhawks, we would have swept the Penguins. We would have swept the second round. We would have made it to conference finals, and we would have won the Stanley Cup. We would have seen a goalie hug with Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman with the Stanley Cup. We would have seen Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, and Brad Marchand hosting the last cup. Instead, instead, the Pittsburgh Penguins decided to lay a goose egg against the Blue Jackets and the Chicago Blackhawks, and the rest is history. Thanks, Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Reliving some memories from last NHL playoffs. Why don't we just segue into some NHL talk? We can take a look at the standings. President's Trophy race is as close as it's ever been. I mean, we've seen the Panthers, the Bruins, the Rangers, the Hurricanes are right there. The Avs,
The
Stars,
Canucks.
Canucks.
The
They're all
Canucks.
of 97 or 98 points. So this race across all four divisions,
And
really
even
really
Winnipeg,
interesting.
and like right now the least competitive, I put that in quotations, team in the President's Trophy race right now is Winnipeg, and they have
Right,
93 points. So
93 on
it
like three
should
games.
it should tell
Yeah,
you right
yeah.
now how close this thing is. But I don't think that's the real story here. The real story right now is how hot the Nashville Predators are. In the past 17 games, they're 15-0-2. That's an
Wow.
insane point streak. 17 games in a row registering a point. That's incredible.
Hmm.
Like Nashville over the past month, they've climbed themselves into a great position to, as of right now, I think the Nashville Predators, they're the one seed right now. Vegas is kind of holding on to the second wild card.
Right.
But Nashville is really putting themselves in a great position, and I think they could really they could really wreck some damage right now. Like we think teams like
Mhm.
Colorado looks like, I wouldn't say invincible, but they are deadly in all fours. Like Nathan McKinnon, once again, shout out to being my first overall pick in my fantasy league and carrying me. But Nathan McKinnon, Cal McCarr, Nico Rantanen, that's a deadly trio right there. And then Colorado just has so much depth, but again, teams in the Central, like they're also to not be underestimated. The Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets, both teams also got both teams also got bolstered at the deadline. It's and I don't know if you've seen it circulating over Twitter, like the standings where they are right now. If we were to have a potential, if the season were to stop right now, and we were to see the current first round matchup, um, it would potentially be the greatest first round series in sports history. I, I'm very much willing to say that because there'd be so much firepower going against each other. It would just be ridiculous. And these are first round teams. It's not like it's not like any upsets. Like I can't say upsets. It's like it's not like these teams suck or like one team is just limping on and hanging into the playoffs. Like, especially in the West, every team has been on fire. I mean, Vancouver is like slipped a little bit, but that's not really saying much. Edmonton, since their 16 game win streak, they've cooled off a slip. They cooled off a slight bit, but they're still just as deadly as ever. But really, the one team that's been having a rough time in the Pacific are the LA Kings because they started out the season as the Road Warriors, and now it seems like they're just getting. It just seems like every other win they're having now. Uh, it seems like they're just winning every other game now, but they've gone 7-3 of the last 10 games. So yeah, so the West is looking mighty interesting, and of course, just because Nashville and Vegas right now have the first and second wild cards, that doesn't mean that that's permanent. St. Louis is still fairly close within the race with 80 points, and maybe even Minnesota still has a chance at 77. But Minnesota will have to get really, really, really lucky. As for the
Yeah.
East, yeah, as for the East, Tampa Bay and Washington of all teams, I was not expecting Washington to be there, especially after they sold Kuznetsov at the deadline and Anthony Monta. Uh, was not expecting that they'd remain in the playoff race right now, but they currently hold spots over the Detroit Red Wings, the New York Islanders, the New Jersey Devils, and the Buffalo Sabres. And I guess if you want to count the skating mediocrity known as the Pittsburgh Penguins, them also. But
Yeah.
I think Tampa Bay. I'd be very surprised if they fold and don't and aren't the one seed in terms of being the wild card. But the race for the the race for the two seed in the wild card right now, it's a bloodbath. Washington, Detroit, the Islanders, and the Devils and the Sabres. Um, like the the range from Capitals to the Sabres is just 6 points. So really, every game here is crucial for all these teams. All these teams have about 10, 12 games remaining left. So you cannot afford to screw up. And I said, I believe I said earlier when we debuted the season that Detroit would make the playoffs. I believe I said that. Uh,
I think you
I don't.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of holding on to hope
They're right on the
because
cusp of it right now. Yeah.
yeah, and especially when the thing is, what's made this difficult is that Detroit's been in the tailspin over the past 10 games.
Right.
They recently lost they had like a 6 or 7 game losing streak, and Buffalo got red hot. So now Buffalo's almost looking this thing. Jersey's been
Mm.
straddling the pony, so to speak. It seems like
Yeah. Mediocrity.
I yeah, I mean I can't
It's like
exactly say the
yeah.
team. Yeah, the confusing thing is I can't exactly say the Devils have gotten better since they fired Lindy Ruff, but they haven't exactly gotten worse. It seems like they're still just like straddling that line of just being Jekyll
Right.
and Hyde.
Yeah.
So as for the Islanders, well, the Islanders would certainly be a playoff team, uh, like almost a definitive they'd almost be a definitive place in like maybe the Metro if they learn to not have the worst penalty kill in the league, and if they could finish games in overtime. And I'm, in a similar way, I'm kind of talking about the Bruins as well because if you the Bruins like 15, yeah, what is it, 15? Yeah, 15 games going on into overtime, and the Bruins at one point led the league, and I believe they still do. Um, Lead the league in giving up last minute goals, which is extremely frustrating uh, in the period, and likewise that's led to a lot of unnecessary overtime. So there's 10 games left in the season for the Bruins. Um, I guess 9 if you count the aftermath of this Florida Panthers game. So there's only a handful of games left. So clean up your act, get disciplined, get tough, and get ready for the playoffs. Because these last minute goals that you're letting in, that should not fly for any team, especially the Bruins, and especially when you have arguably the best goalie tandem in the league. There's a reason why Swayman and Allmark won the Jennings Trophy last year. It's because they're the best goaltending tandem in the league. You still have that for another season. Make use of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I agree with all of that. Playoff race certainly heating up in the NHL. Not too much time left. Probably about 10 games left or so for every team. So we're really starting to see what these matchups could look like and which teams could get in. Which teams need to push. A lot of teams, yeah, kind of need a little bit of a push. They're kind of straddling mediocrity. So, but yeah, we'll have to see how that shakes out. You also want to talk about the NBA a little bit and the playoff races and stuff like that,
Uh,
or whatever's
sure.
going on.
Sure. I guess we can talk about a little bit. So, um, let's see. Let's start with the West. So the West, the race for the one seed, it's still pretty much a bloodbath between the Nuggets, the
Hmm.
Thunder, and the Wolves. Um, uh, the Nuggets, at the time of this recording, they're 51-21, Thunder 49-21, and Wolves 49-22. But it's still anyone's game for the one seed. Pelicans, Clippers holding it strong there at the 4 and the 5. The Kings, Mavericks, and Suns pretty much in a tie for sixth place at the moment,
Yeah.
and the Lakers and the Warriors are 9 and 10 in the undeserved
Hmm.
stupid playing tournament.
Yeah.
Um, and I will continue saying that because the playing tournament
Yeah.
is just a bunch of ridiculous garbage. Um, The Rockets can potentially have a chance to usurp the Warriors.
Yeah, look at them. They've been surging lately. They won 9 out of 10, I believe, and
I
they've been
think
on a
I think
tear
they
lately. So
I think they're on a 9 game win streak.
yeah, I think they are in a 9 game win streak actually.
Yeah.
Is right. So yeah, I'm looking at that. I mean, they might be have something to say. I mean, the way the Warriors are skidding towards 500 right now, the Rockets, if they can keep this up, I mean, they'll be right there, looking to take one of those spots away. Lakers are a little bit ahead, so I feel like they'll probably hold on, but they could probably pass the Warriors. And imagine Dylan Brooks going against LeBron James in a playing game. That'd be something. After last year, but
That'd be kind of funny.
it'd be kind of funny. I mean, I
I
think
think you're
everyone,
thinking of
yeah,
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Jalen Green for a second, right?
yeah, I think so. I don't know. I
Yeah.
said, yeah, Dylan Green, Dylan Brooks. That'd be interesting. I think everyone was kind of hoping it'd probably be Golden State, LA for playing another one of those, and that could still
How
happen too. That'd be
well,
exciting.
you
But
never know.
yeah, we'll have to see.
Adam Silver could wave his magic wand and make that happen.
Yeah, but honestly, Dylan Brooks, LeBron James, I think that'd be so funny if that happened again. From last season. Yeah, I mean, and then I guess if you want to talk about the East, I mean, Celtics locked up the 1 seed. They've been, I mean, yesterday's game was kind of, they
Uh,
blew a 30-point lead to the Hawks, but they're, yeah,
I'll tell you what happened. They're playing an Atlanta team and decided to do their best Falcons impression. That's
mm,
all I could say. They
yeah,
got lazy in the last 6 8 minutes of the game. They got lazy. They got sloppy. They got a discipline and stopped caring. And so ultimately, it cost them the win. I mean, you could say it doesn't matter, and for the time being, it really doesn't. But
yeah,
considering that the Celtics are pretty much, let's see, the fourth quarter for this entire season, they've pretty much been the kings of blowing double-digit leads. Uh, that's not good, and especially against a team who's really been desperate, trying to catch fire going to the playoffs. And Atlanta's kind of right in that mix. Like they can make it happen. Um,
true. They played the Celtics pretty competitively in the first round, actually, so it kind of reminded me of that just a
yeah,
little bit. So yeah.
yeah.
Before the Heat
Oh
knocked
yeah,
Celtics
that's
out, I
right.
mean,
That
the
was
Hawks
last
played
year.
them tight. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that was last year.
yeah. It's probably good for the Celtics to get these kinds of games out of their system now while it's still the regular season because, I mean, overall they've been pretty dominant, but, occasionally you're going to have a hiccup here and there. And the Hawks, Hawks are
I
one of
wouldn't
those
call
teams
this
that are underseeded but deadly. So, I mean,
I
just kind
wouldn't
of
call this
similar
a
to the
hiccup.
Heat.
That this is more than a hiccup. This
This was
is
a blown lead. It was undisciplined, and you can't afford to be doing things in the
Yeah. I
playoffs
mean,
because teams will take
listen,
advantage of that.
if there's a 10 point lead, so be it, because
Right.
that evaporates within 5 seconds of basketball. This
Yeah.
was 30.
30. It is
It takes
undisciplined. It's like you take your foot off the gas and the other team comes back on you.
it takes a special type of talent to blow that.
Yeah. I think you said it. The only team that could beat the Celtics is themselves. So I mean, this would be a
And
good example of that happening.
so far right now, it looks like
It does
you
look
know
like that. At least until you get to the NBA Finals, I think the only team who can really beat the
well
Celtics will probably be the Nuggets.
that's not a guarantee. We've seen the course of happen. We've seen the course of action happen before.
True.
As
Yeah.
far from a guarantee.
You can't lock anything in, but the Celtics, if they play up to their standards, they can make a run. They could probably at least make the finals. Now that's a big if because you
Yeah.
just never know
I
in
mean,
playoff time with these guys.
I
I guess
still
that's the
I still
problem.
stand I still stand by that this playing crap should be abolished because I mean yes the Hawks had listen the Hawks had an amazing win yesterday. I'm not going to deny that, but you see where they are right now. I mean, 71 games into the season, they're 32-39. They're sub 500. That's not mediocre. That's garbage level. You're telling me sub 500 basketball, like even just saying mediocrity, that it's mediocrity itself should not be reported. But of course, things happen. You're telling me a team that's been sub 500, finishes a season sub 500, and I'm saying this for all sports. Forget basketball. I'm just saying basketball because we have this ridiculous playing garbage. You're telling me a team that's sub 500 deserves to be in the playoffs? I don't think so. Like I could excuse like one game or two games here and there. Like for example, like Like 10 years ago, you used to see a lot of what 42 and 40s, 40 and 42s going to the playoffs. Like you've seen that, but those are competitive 40 and 42, or competitive 42 and 40. This like 32 and 39 does not suggest competitive. That suggests you're you're decent, but you're still trash.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. So, um, yeah. I mean, the Celtics though, the first seed, the play-in should be interesting, but I agree. Like, I think it should be kind of abolished. I don't think it's that great, honestly. It can make for some good
Well,
games, but it's just I
well,
think
I
if you're the
mean, we
7 and 8,
we all know why the
that's
NBA.
where the line should be. You know what I mean?
I mean, we all know why the NBA did it because they want
It's
money,
it's revenue, it's money,
and to delude a couple fan
and
bases into thinking, oh, we might
it,
actually be a good team this year. No,
yeah, they
you're
don't want
not.
teams to take off the back half of the season, from 11 to 15 or from 9 to 15, really. So, or you know what I mean. So they want teams like the Nets and the Raptors, I guess, or teams in that range to keep going, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, I guess we
Yeah.
ran down the West standings. We could probably do the same for the East standings as well. Behind the
Well, yeah.
Celtics, there's about an
Well,
11.
let's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say like, really, you could call this the battle of the two seed. There's Milwaukee, Cleveland, the
Right.
Knicks, and maybe even Orlando.
Maybe could be.
Maybe the Pacers for the two seed. I don't
Man,
know,
they're
but the
all they're
Bucks would.
all kind of in a good mix.
The Bucks would
Yeah.
have to do some. The Bucks would have to do some real choking to let that happen.
Right.
Um,
Probably not the
it's,
Pacers, but
yeah.
yeah.
Then of
Bucks,
course,
Cavs, Knicks, Magic, Pacers are kind of all in the mix for the rest for those playoffs. The Heat, Sixers kind of in the same range now. Sixers kind of suffering a little bit without Joel Embiid, but they should be able to hang on to a play-in spot at least. And then
and Chicago somehow still in this thing.
yeah, they're still in the mix. It's like nothing's changed down here. Like in the West, the Rockets are surging kind of, but it's like Mavs, Suns, Lakers, Warriors is looking like, or maybe the Rockets. It should be an all-time play. And Kings and Clippers kind of just escaping. Pelicans top three, bloodbath between Nuggets, Thunder, and T Wolves. In the East, it's just like Celtics are way ahead of everybody. The Bucks, Cavs kind of shaping out what probably are going to be maybe 2 and 3, but then the Knicks are also right there. I think those are probably going to be your final four in the East. The Magic right there as well. That should be an interesting series if it's the Knicks and the Magic, because I think the Magic beat them 3 out of 4 times. The Pacers in six, they're hanging in there. The Heat looking, I don't know, maybe they're priming themselves for another run out of the seven. Like last year they're the 8th seed, but you never know with them. They could turn it up. So let's be careful. The Sixers kind of, without Joel Embiid, probably going to hang on to the 8. And the Bulls, yeah, the Bulls at 9, the Hawks in 10, the Nets in 11. Like none of that has changed, and it's a little bit frustrating. But at the same time, the Raptors are on an 11-game losing skid. The Nets snapped their own 6-game losing skid last night against them. Neither of those teams, if you can't make the play, and there's really no point trying to defend the teams and being like, oh yeah, no, they're, because I mean, below them you got the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Pistons, who are all very miserable. Although they've been playing a little bit better lately. The Wizards have won 3 in a row, but I mean, the Nets and Raptors, like it kind of just sucks, I guess, especially for the Nets because they don't have their own pick. And neither of those two look like they're going to be able to
Oh,
close the
that's right.
gap and make the play in. Looks like the Hawks are going to hang on. And if last night was any indication, they look ready to at least compete in the play. And I mean, it's a good sign to see the way they reacted against Boston. So it looks like things are, I'm going to, as a Nets fan, I'm probably going to assume at this point it's kind of not, they're not going to be able to catch Atlanta. I thought when they took 2 from them and closed it to 2, they'd have a chance. At this point, I don't think it's going to happen, being 5.5 games back with like 10 to go. The Nets are 2-8 in their last 10. But yeah, I mean, it's what it is. I think we're going to see Heat, Sixers, both Hawks as the play in the East. And then in the West, probably going to be Mavs, Suns, Lakers, Warriors, or Rockets. Probably going to actually be Mavs, Suns, Lakers, Rockets, which should be deadly with all that star power in those sea lines. But the East is going to be kind of whatever. It's going to be it is what it is type thing. So it's kind of how I see the playing, the NBA standings as a whole.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I guess to wrap it up, well, we touched about this in the beginning. Let's just do like a 30-second rundown of this new stupid kickoff rule,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the banning the hip drop tackle. I have a
Yeah.
takeaway. The NFL is turning into flag football.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I
No,
mean,
it's
yeah,
soft. It's
it is. Yeah, the
no,
kickoff thing, it's going to be like XFL style. Like
no,
I don't really
no.
think
So,
that's a great
listen,
idea.
I mean, you already can't tackle the quarterback in the league anymore. Like half the sacks these days are now roughing the passer, which is just stupid. And listen, I can understand like banning like the targeting to the head. I can completely understand that, especially
Hmm.
with especially with all the like the science and stuff that's that's been advanced over the past 10, 15 years. I can understand that, but banning hip drop tackles and then doing this stupid new kickoff rule, you kidding
I
me?
know.
Like, no,
Yeah.
like I don't know what I'm more pissed about, honestly. I mean,
Probably
the
the
kickoff.
kickoff because I don't know. I mean, the hip drop. It's not like a thing players really want to do. It's just in the situation, you're sideways, and then it's just a gut reaction thing. It's not meant to hurt players, but I can still
It's,
see why it's a dangerous technique. But the kickoff thing is just like, kicking. It's just kind of weird. I mean, I guess what they're trying to do is incentivize returns because most of the time they kick off through the back of the end zone or into the end zone or in the playing field, and then they'll fair catch it, or it'll bounce in the end zone, or they'll fair catch in the end zone, and you hardly get to see a good return. So now I guess they
no,
want to
no,
they
you know
want to
what?
incentivize returns, but then there's
No,
going to
no, you
probably
know
be
what?
more collisions anyway. You know what I
No,
mean?
I'm
So it
saying
kind of defeats the whole purpose of that.
no, I'm saying you know what changed that? I think it was last year when the NFL made the ruling that that
Yeah,
if you're within like the first 5 yards or so of the end zone, you can actually fair catch the ball, like signal fair catch, and you
right,
start at
right,
the
right.
25. That's
Yeah.
stupid.
Because it incentivizes fair catches. So now I guess they want to say, no, we want to incentivize returns. We're not seeing any. We're seeing like I think it was like 20% of it's like 20% of the kicks when only 20% of the kicks became returns. The rest were fair catches of some sort or the ball dropped in the end zone, whatever the case, touchbacks.
Yeah, it
So
seems
they
like
want to change that up.
it seems like the NFL can't make up their damn mind. But like,
Yeah, well, it is what it is. It's
but like
gonna yeah.
no,
Those are
let's say
the major two
let's say this hip drop.
NFL rule changes.
Yeah, but let's say this hip drop tackle ban was here like say 10, 15 years ago. What happens to like the careers of and even the team history of guys like Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Clay Matthews, Troy Polamalu, um, like even J.J. Watt to this like Aaron Donald. Like, what happens to all these guys? Like if if this hip drop tackle was instituted 10, 12, 15 years ago, like, we would have seen a lot of history being
Hmm.
changed, and that may not necessarily have been for the greatest of ideas. So it seems like to me overall that the NFL is trying to make more progress each every year to ruin their own game, and then wonder why
Feels
us
like it.
fans and then wonder why us fans hate the refs and the NFL even more on a yearly basis. Like, that's what it seems like. I don't know
Hmm.
if that's your intention, Roger. Well, you're doing good. If that's not your intention, then I don't really know what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I guess final thing. MLB is starting this week. I think opening days on
Well, no,
Thursday.
no, 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 no. It started in South Korea,
Oh,
where
right. Yeah, the
we had
first
the
regular
Dodgers and the
season game.
Padres, where
Right,
the
right, right.
Dodgers and the Padres face off for the first two games.
Yep.
Of course, the second game was more of a yeah, excuse me. The the first game that was played by them, that was a 5-2 victory for the Dodgers. And
Mm.
then the second game played the day after was a 15-11 shootout victory for the Padres. But as we all know, that is far from the greatest news that have happened in the MLB. This is arguably, um, I don't know where Arnav went. So this news right now um, with everything that's going on, this Shohei Ohtani stuff, this is arguably the most um, this is arguably the biggest headline thing that has happened in the MLB since the Houston Astros sign stealing scandal, and even then, you could even argue uh, the the most potentially scandalous thing that's happened in the past 100 years, the 1919 White Sox World Series gambling thing. And it's funny you mentioned gambling because that's exactly what this thing is all about. And we still don't really know the full story of everything that's going on, because we're presented with different stories between Shohei Ohtani and Ibe Mizahara. Um, eBay first said he wired $4.5 million to cover his gambling debts, and then eventually changed his story. And then he's revealing in an ESPN interview that let's see, that of all the things that happened, um, and then uh, like, really this thing, and then of course Shohei with a statement earlier today saying that um, he he never gambles on any sports. He plays the game with integrity and all these things, and that eBay stole money from him and lied to him about it. So it's it's a bit confusing on how to piece all these things together. But this is certainly a huge black eye on the MLB right now, and uh, yeah, so I forget the Dodgers in this entire thing. This is about the MLB. I think that it'll be in the MLB's best interest to protect Shohei Ohtani and make him seen as the victim of Ippei Muzahara by completely cheating him and taking advantage of Shohei, because initially Ippei came up with multiple stories saying that one of them was he was uh, that he took the $4.5 million to pay towards an illegal bookie, Matthew Boyer, and then eventually says Shohei and then eventually tells Shohei that I needed that $4.5 million to cover for my gambling debts. So it seems to me that based on the murkiness of all this stuff, that Yuki Mizahara, it, it's a little bit it's a little bit difficult to understand his overall standpoints on this. And of course, the biggest question mark of all this is, was Shohei involved or was he not? I personally hope he's not, but you know, it will certainly be one that it will certainly be. You can almost argue the gravest situation, gravest, not gravest, gravest matter that the MLB has had to deal with, because of course um, we all know that Pete Rose, he's in my view a Hall of Famer, MLB's all-time hits leader. He's he contributed so much to the game. Of course, he was betting on his teams when he was a manager, and of course that's the reason why he was banned for life from the Hall of Fame. Um, and of course we've had the steroids scandals with Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, A Rod, and all these guys, but somehow none of those really felt. Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, Jose Canseco, but somehow none of those stories felt as controversial and as grave as this entire thing right now, because 30, 40 years ago we had Pete Rose, that Pete Rose confessed to gambling here. It was Shohei Ohtani. Um, I mean, he said that he's never gambled on any sports regardless. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing gets settled. But I guess for next time, we'll see. We'll see if more details will uncover, and we'll stay up to date on these things. So see ya.